What's up, Digidestins? This is Kyle D, better known as RideMyAvatar, and today we're going to talk about none other than probably the best decks to be playing in this format so far. So without further ado, let's dive in the video and talk about it. So we've had a few regionals, we've had a case tournament, we've had nationals. So we have a good understanding what decks would be probably good to walk into this meta with. There are chances that there's going to be some bad ones, bad takes, anything like that. Let me know what deck you're going to be playing down below. Really would love to hear. But first off, I think one of the better decks, and it showed that it can top in one of the regionals, was Beelzemon showed off. So Beelzemon's still great, even though the mill is not as hyper aggro as it used to be. So aggressive, I mean. But even with that slowed down pace, the deck is able to clear security really well, keep the board in tempo, very much a mid-range style of play. This deck has a lot of potential. It does basically require you to mill to 30 to be really aggressive with your opponent, and that's going to be vital as can be. Using I Am Mako to be able to stack any of the key cards like Deathslinger or Wizardmon on top to keep adding more memory. Anytime your stuff is removed, you get to play a Beelzemon on your Balmon line. So, all this stuff adds up and it gets really, really sticky. Like, the deck loves to stick a body. And that's the thing. Some decks can't just remove a body mid-combat. After all said and done, the on deletion, you can't double delete a Mega right afterwards. So if you can't unsuspend and try to take out the other one, this deck basically likes to stick hard. So being able to do that really puts in the work for this deck. So definitely keep an eye out on this deck. Then we do have Red Hybrid. Red Hybrid, another hyper aggressive deck. This deck is all about being hyper aggressive, meaning that you can take care of your opponent's stuff very easily. You don't really care about what your opponent's doing anyway, because your goal is just to Atomic Inferno for crazy game. You're just going to be clearing out their security. You don't care because your tamers are going to be replayed. And it's funny because Red Hybrid still has the potential to be great tempo. The new Koromon definitely helps out because you are going to be removing security cards from the security stack regardless, because you're going to punch through. And if, let's say, they have a blocker, Emperor Greymon's going to be able to unsuspend and try to go again. So stuff like this really does matter. And offensive training doesn't work with the Tamer evolution, but in your normal evolution line, you can reduce stuff. So just keep that in mind. Then we have Bloomlord. Bloomlord's actually pretty solid into the format. Bloomlord's spits a wide board. As long as you're not dealing with a bunch of Death X's, this deck is going to go off and just have your opponent have a bad time. As long as you can suspend one of their threats, you're going to be swinging into it, clearing it out, piercing, boom, your opponent's just really not going to be able to do much against it. So, and especially having access to Quartzmon as your top end, it's like a Death X. Even though it locks down all your opponent's stuff, you can basically swing in and just make your opponent have a bad day. So stuff like this is really important, especially when you're thinking about deck building. And, Palmon's going to be Palmon. The deck is going to search, it's going to get its stuff. Lilymon Ace is a nice inclusion into the deck, so it's on play. When Digimon suspend one of your opponent's Digimon, then you may return one of your opponent's suspended Digimon with 5,000 DP or less to the bottom of the owner's deck. Having Mimi in the deck for BT-14, reveal the top 3 cards top of your deck, add one Digimon card with plant, vegetation, or fairy in one of its traits among them to your hand, place the rest at the bottom of the deck, and then when a Digimon becomes suspended by effect, by suspending this tamer, gain a memory. All this stuff accumulates, and the deck has a lot of tempo. It's very much a very powerful deck, a quick evolved stack, and it's going to just punish your opponent. This deck is going to do what it wants, and there's not much else you can do about it. So stuff like this is very vital. Then we do have War Greymon. This was the first place list for one of the regionals, so definitely want to talk about it, especially when we have cards that weren't really in it originally. I think Louie's a very interesting addition because it's on play, move one of your level 3 or higher Digimon from the breeding area to battle area, and then when one of your Digimon moves from the breeding area to battle area, suspend this tamer, gain a memory. So, I mean, the fact that you can bring your Digimon up a turn sooner, just giving you a on play doing that, sometimes could mean important combo. You know, there's stuff like this that does matter, especially if you had a Greymon X antibody, you had plenty of memory or something like that. You can just go off from there. The deck has a lot of its power here. You know, Raid War Greymon being able to swing into two things that are, you know, normally not able to swing into it is really vital. You know, stuff like this does add up in the long game. And the fact that I like that this had a spice of 4 Greymon X antibody with 1 Greymon X antibody of the limited. So there's 5 Greymon X antibodies just to combo with your security attacker, because you do need the protection. Like a lot of decks in this format, you are dealing with option removal. So a lot of people swapped into that. So it gets really nerve-wracking when you're swinging in and you don't have that protection. Because if you don't, you're most likely losing your stack. So just keep that in mind going forwards. Then we do have Hunters. Hunters is not a deck going anywhere. The deck does what it does well, especially if your opponent has a Tamer. Being able to use a Restaurant Superior mode and tuck something underneath is really solid. I think this is where it wants to do, is that you get to have a Restaurant Superior mode answer a lot of threats in the game, and if your opponent can't deal with it, they're gonna have a bad time. I mean, Quartzmon's Quartzmon, Omni Shoutmon's gonna just blow things up. You know, we know what's gonna happen with this deck. You know, Tigeru is gonna be your mem setter. Taiki's gonna draw you a card. Yu's gonna gain you that memory. You know, so stuff like that is really important, and especially with Old Man Clock Shop. You know, this dude here, he's going to give you the extra security to punch through things. And because you have all these save abilities, you can tuck things under and reduce the Digievolution cost constantly. So it's just really good to see how this deck still holds its own. Then we're getting into Shine Greymon. Shine Greymon had a few tops actually across the board. Even though with its restriction in Geo Gray, it wasn't as bad as people were making it out to be. The deck still does really well, especially when you can splash in any combination between the offensive training and physical training in your dual color typing that just hits everything in your deck. So stuff like this is very vital, especially with Marcus punching through. I like that they're going with the red Koro, just because when a card is removed from your opponent's security stack, draw a card. You know, all this draw power and advantage is really good. And I mean, the deck's going to do what it wants to do. It's notorious about punching through your opponent with these Tamers and then making your opponent have a bad time because you just go into Shine Greymon burst mode and you just be able to replay your Marcus. Not many decks get to replay their Tamer for free, especially this is just so free, it's ridiculous. Even though you lose out on it afterwards, that's fine. You're going to be swinging with a 12,000 DP that can't Digivolve, but it has Rush. Who cares? You're going to be removing threats anyway. So stuff like Shine Greymon Burst Bomb is really solid. So I think we're going to see more and more of this at your local shopping. So Setcon is interesting. There was a few topping lists. A lot of decks in the format don't have any way of negating options. So why not? You can easily control the board state and just keep your opponent at bay with like Hirsurmon, the Hedgehog, the bloody Hedgehog. Security at the end of the battle, one of your opponent's Digimon gains minus security attack 1 for the turn, and then add this card to hand. You know how many times there's a rookie in my security? It's good to have this card there, especially with the Tokomon, because when a card is added to your security stack, draw a card. Very vital. And especially with the Magnamon Ace, it definitely gave the deck some more leg of healing, especially a 4-cost Eve play. I mean, later on it gets deleted, it's not that bad, but you know, you also have Shadow Seraphe. That's basically opponent's turn. When a card is removed from your security stack, you Digivolve one of your opponent's Digimon. You know, that's really solid actually. There's stuff you can do with that, you know, double Death X to control the board, Flame Hellsize to replay your Magna Anjas, you know, Holy Wave to just keep putting stuff there, you know, Tactical Retreat to just do the same thing, you know, Chaos Degradation, Wyvern's Breath, Reinforced Mem Boost, you know, everything that your opponent's just not going to want to deal with. And then the spicy Gallantmon being able to help close out games really does help out. You have X program that basically deletes one Digimon without X antibodies trait. If both players have 3 or more Digimon in play, delete all your without X antibodies in trait instead. Not many X antibodies in the format besides War Greymon, really. So this card becomes vital. I mean, you have Digimon Emperor that's going to punish for your opponent. When an opponent's Digimon 5 or lower is deleted, you may suspend to draw a card. And then when an opponent's level 3 Digimon moves from breeding area to battle area, gain 2 memory. You know, you got TKs and Karis, and then Kari, and then Mirai is really interesting to me, but start of your turn, just gain a memory. You know, Kari's going to just suspend if you lose a security, you know, and then TK and Kari's just, if you have fewer security than your opponent, gain 2 memory. It just, a lot of stuff spirals out of control pretty quickly, especially because you will gain this bunch of memory. Chaos Degradation. If there's not a lot of tamer hate in the format, this is what happens. Setcon just comes back up. Then you have Fenry Lugon. So basically the better Jessmon. So because it's not running a bunch of white cards to make itself brick, it's actually better. So the fact that this makes it so that, you know, if you play a level 4 or lower with Dark Animal or Sons of Chaos traits from your trash without paying its cost, if IG talking is a hard point. In this Digimon's Digi-Evolution cards, if the tamer's in there, his tamer, add 2 to the maximum number of Digimon you can play. When attacking by deleting one of your opponent's level 3 or lower, unsuspend this Digimon for each of your Digimon. Add 1 maximum level of that Digimon you can choose with this effect. Your turn, the condition of ending your turn becomes your opponent having 3 or more memory. So as long as your opponent reaches 3, you get a lot of going on for you, so you're pretty solid. So I love Shine, Greymon, Ruin Grip mode, just to control boards that are wide. You know, the deck is going to do what it wants to. Even if you have to slam down this thing, your turn, delete this Digimon, draw 2 cards. Then you may return 1 Lugomon from your trash to your hand. On deletion, you may trash up to 3 cards with Dark Animal or SOC in its traits from your hand. Then delete one of your opponent's level 3 or lower Digimon for each card trash with this effect. Add 1 maximum level of this Digimon can choose with its effects. You know, controlling the board and being able to pop a level 6 if you trash 3 cards is ridiculous. You know, this thing drawing cards, replacing itself for better tempo is really nutty. I mean, even if you had to hard play that for 7, that's not terrible. This thing is just nutty strong. I mean, the deck has all its synergies right there. You know, So Lugomon is basically, this is where you get Save Your Hawks effect. When your card with Dark Animal or SC in its trait, you may unsuspend this Digimon. So you get at least 2 attacks in just with this card alone, comboing with your Fenry Lugon. The deck has no real shy bad parts. You know, the Black Gato play that you get to play too with Rush, and if they swing in, hey, and then you just Chimera right back. You know, that can just be nutty in itself. So we'll have to see if this deck continues to progressively be good. Then we do have a deck that got 2nd place at Nats for the Europes. This is really interesting to me, is that we have Yellow Hybrid back. Ukomon added a synergy to this deck that most people weren't expecting. When your Digimon moves from the breeding area to battle area, you may hatch 1 Digi-Egg to an empty space in your breeding area, then gain 1 memory. That's not bad. That allows you to combo really nicely with all your stuff because it can Digivolve on any egg, bringing them up, hatch another one, sets you up to climb up more. You know, then you have the Yellow Hybrid package, which is 6 cards, which is interesting to me. But having Venusmon be in here, you know, Magnamon Ace to be part of your top end, and Gallantmon just being a threat that they have to deal with. You know, like Trident Gaia, remember, you have to have your colors. If you don't have a red tamer out, or a red egg or something, can't activate it, but delete one of your opponent's Digimon with the highest DP. If a Digimon with 13,000 or more DP is deleted by this effect, trash the top card opponent's security stack. Really not a bad thing. Trident Gaia being able to remove threats is really solid, and especially a free trash for an 8 cost is really nasty, especially if they hit in security. That really can screw up your opponent's game plan. Crimson Blaze being able to shut down spammy decks and being able to wipe their boards is really solid. You have like Tai, Kamiya, and Kari. If you have 3 or fewer cards, gain 1 memory. If your opponent has 3 or fewer security, gain 1 memory. You know, then your red or yellow Digimon attacks. You may spend this tamer to give all your opponent's security Digimon minus 2000 DP, making them smaller. You know, Ties, TKs, and Zoe. Venusmon, like I said before, really solid. But Jet Sylphie, it's really cool to see this deck back in the format. And let's see if it continues to actually progress that way. Then we do have Mirage Ganon. So this is going to be the last deck we're going to talk about. But, you know, top 10 wise, this one took first in Nats. So the proof that the deck was good is still here. The deck is phenomenally strong. There's nothing really you lose out on. Mirage is going to do what it wants to do. It's going to OTK the daylights out of you. You know, 3 mem boost, 4 mental training. If your opponent's still setting up and you can get this online the fastest, you're winning the game. There's not much else this deck has to worry about, especially with Bukumon being able to have jamming. There's not many decks that can tower evenly with it, just because if you get this out a click or turn sooner, especially going into burst mode, you get 1 more stack piece. Your opponent's not going to have a good time, and then all you have to do is worry about options in your opponent's security stack. Then you have like Thomas here from BT-14 that's just going to basically, if your opponent has 8 or more cards in hand, you may suspend this tamer to unsuspend one of your Galmons and names. Just be able to swing in again. A tamer that does that is ridiculous. And then you have like Zudomon Ace to help control the board, and it proved that even with the restriction down to 1 for its EX counterpart, the most consistent piece, people don't care. Zudomon Ace is up in here just going like, help protect you, get your pieces, get blocker pieces out of here, or anything that might threaten you. So guys, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you next one. Peace!